Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. This is Recruit Painting, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how I clean, assemble and prepare my Warlord Resin and metal miniatures for painting. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I'm currently doing a slow grow campaign for Conflict 47 at my local gaming shop, and some of the players there, it's their first time working with Warlord kits, and they're unfamiliar with working with resin, miniatures and metal. So I've given them a few pointers, but thought it'd be quite nice as I'm assembling this kit to do a little video on it before I do the painting tutorial for it. So I'm not saying this is the correct way to do it, but it's the way I do it. If you've got any suggestions the way you prepare your miniatures, do please put them in the comments. You know, I'm really open to suggestions and learning new things, so do comment your top tips as well. And also I'll start off by saying this, when you're working with resin, do make sure you're in a ventilated area and that you are wearing a mask as well, just to protect yourself. So the reason we're doing this kit at the moment is because I've been very kindly sent this by Fog of War Games, who are now our channel sponsor, which is really exciting news. Rob contacted me a few weeks ago and asked if I'd like sponsorship, and I absolutely did. So here we are now, and I'm really looking forward to what the future brings for the channel and this partnership with Rob at Fog of War Games. So the great thing about this is as well is that, you know, if you are interested in any of the miniatures that you see here, or any historical miniatures, Conflict 47, and paints and hobby tools as well, if you go to Fog of War Games and use code RECRUIT10, you get 10% off on top of any discounted items that we already have on the site. So yeah, it is worth having a little look because there's some great things on there, some great bargains, and full of hobby goodness. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so I keep suggesting this to everybody that's interested in getting into bolt action. You know, if you can't pick up a starter army or one of the starter sets, grab a box of infantry of an army that you're really interested in doing, and get started with that. And then when you start throwing dice and you're happy with that kind of infantry level game, then start looking at perhaps introducing a heavy weapons platoon, particularly the newer kits with the newer heavy weapon platoon boxes. They come with everything you need to introduce that platoon into your army. So you have your 3 weapons teams here, 2 MMGs, and then your medium mortar, but you also have your platoon commander. So it means that you don't have to proxy one of your infantry models that you've built for your, you know, your rifle platoon. You've got a designated platoon commander for that platoon, which is fantastic. So you can just build these, quickly paint them up, and then you know, they just slot right into your army. So these boxes are fantastic. So as I said, most kits will come in a box like this. The difference between these and your infantry boxes is your infantry boxes are often going to be plastic. These ones, as you can see at the back here, they're a mixture of Warlord Resin and metal miniatures. And those of you that have been playing bolt action for a while, you'll know that off the older weapons teams, these would be all metal. And I believe now, and we'll find out in a minute when I crack it open, that I believe the infantry manning the weapons are Warlord Resin, and then the actual weapons, the systems themselves, are the metal. So for this, obviously, factoring in the fact that it is resin and metal, you're going to need to use super glue, and I like to use Gorilla Glue, but obviously other glues are available. I picked this one up in particular because it's got the smaller applicator, so it's easier for me to kind of get into those areas and put the glue on. But yeah, you're going to need super glue for these to build them. But before we do that, we've got to crack it open, clean up the miniatures, any flash or anything like that, and then give them a clean. So let's move on to that. So when you open the box, this is what you'll be greeted with, and as you can see, look, as we said, we've got the Warlord Resin infantry here, and then we have the weapon systems, in the metal there. And then on the side we've got the order dice, and at the back we've got their bases. So what I like to do before we build them is just to clean up the models, you know, as you would any others. So clean off the flash, any mould lines, clip them off, give them a soapy wash. I like to use hand soap because the bathroom's close by, so I just squirt a few bits of hand soap into a takeaway tub, and use a toothbrush and just give them a little scrub and then leave them to dry, and that works just fine. Doesn't mean that's the right way to do it, but it's the way that works for me and it does the job. So yeah, let's move on to cleaning up the minis. Okay, so I've got the MMG team here and the weapon system as well, ready to go. So you can see here, look, everything I need to build the MMG is all there, and then I've got the 3 crewmen here as well. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to clip off the metal ones, and I'd recommend using an older pair of clippers. So I've got some old Citadel ones here that have been through the wars, and all I'm going to do is just use these just to clip off the bits off of the metal sprue, and just any kind of flash as well that might be lurking around. And then I've got my knife here as well, my hobby knife, just to again scrape off any mould lines, but also I have got a mould line remover as well, just in case. I've got an older blade on this one, so I'm not bothered about ruining that one. So yeah, I just recommend using older stuff because the materials are a little bit harder, and if you're using the same tools on plastic kits a little bit later on, it's not going to be as good anymore. So I do recommend using older ones if you have them. So yeah, just going to clip them off of the sprue here, as close as I can really. Just checking that we're not kind of taking off any other extra details as well is really important. And it will bend, but with the metals it's quite easy just to reshape them. You know, they often recommend warming them up and then reshaping them. To be honest, I've always found they just bent back into shape no problem without breaking. But again, as I said, I'm showing you how I do it. I'm not showing you the correct way to do it. So if you copy me, that's on you. So just clip them off. There's only 3 pieces on this one, so it's fairly easy to do. Try and keep it in camera. There we go. And then just here. There we go. Right, so I can discard that, and that's the MMG ready to start being cleaned up. So again, you're just kind of going to look around if there's any bits that kind of look a little bit out of place. And sod's law, you will miss them. You won't spot them until you prime them. It's happened to me many times. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to see, I don't know why. To just make sure you get all of those bits, it's worth just checking it over just to see. You can see here there's some bits that I need to kind of clip back there, so what I might do is try and get as much as I can with the clippers, and then go in with either my mould line remover or my hobby knife, just to kind of scrape them back a little bit. And because it's quite a soft metal, it's quite easy to do, so obviously just be careful you don't take too much off. There we go. Okay, so that's the MMG done. You can see loads of little sparkly bits on my desk there where I've kind of scraped away some of the flash and some of the mould lines. So now we're going to move on to the crew, and you can just see, look, as you're looking around the model, there's, you know, little bits of flash here, a mould line running down the side there. So just kind of want to get rid of them as much as I can really. And to do that, I'll get the nicer clippers out. So I've got these steady clippers. I picked them up from Amazon. They're kind of the cheaper versions of the expensive clippers that everybody seems to like, and these work fantastically. So I'm just going to get that top bit of flash off with them, and then just as you would with any other miniature, just scrape down the mould lines. And I also have a file as well that I like to use. Do your best to... So just lightly kind of take them away, take away those mould lines there. Okay, so I was using the mould line remover tool initially, and then realised I need to get into some slightly smaller areas, to like just around here, to get rid of the mould lines just up there. So I moved to my my crafting knife. So sometimes, you know, just having a selection of tools available is really helpful. So just, yeah, bear that in mind really. I mean, I've had that mould line remover for some time now, ever since I got back into the hobby a few years ago, and I still use it, still does the job. Particularly when I've misplaced my craft knife, this one's always lurking around somewhere, reminding me that I bought it. So you know, if you have the tools, use them. If not, just use the back of a craft knife. But yeah, just try your best to just look around the model, see where those mould lines are. Just carefully take them away. Try not to take away too much material each time until you're happy with it. And as I said, sod's law, something will lurk or appear after you've primed the model. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes I end up going back over things and just, you know, clipping them off and trying to give them a light dust, or just you know, go back over that coat of paint. So just one of those things. So you go, there's quite a mould line just hiding up there, look. So just try and catch that. Okay, so that's the team and the MMG all tidied up in terms of mould lines. So this guy has some sort of webbing on his helmet there, but then you've got kind of like the mould lines and the flash, which I've kind of cleaned up at the top there, so it's all smooth. You know, you kind of do your best with it really. So they're all tidied up, and the weapons system as well, the MMG. So what I'm going to do now is, got an old takeaway tub filled with hand soap and a toothbrush, which I'm going to use to just clean up the models, and then I've got the paper towel here that I'm just going to leave them to dry on whilst I kind of get the base ready and everything to build the miniature. So all I do is kind of dunk them in for a bit, make a note of, you know, what you've put in there. Really useful sometimes, particularly with some of the larger kits, you'll have a few extra bits. So luckily, you know, there's only 6 parts in here that I need to look for, and just all I do is, the water's warm as well, so just a bit of soap and just give them a scrub, get some of that releasing material off of them as well, off of the miniatures, because that can affect the paints, and just give them a good scrub really. Yeah, once you're happy with them, just pop them onto the paper towel and just leave them to dry. Okay, so whilst the miniatures are drying, one thing I like to do is magnetise the base. Now again, I'm showing you what I do, I'm not showing you what to do. This is one thing I like to do to store my miniatures. What I like to do is put in a few magnets into the base so they're flush, because I really like the low profile of the Warlord bases and I want to keep it that way. So what I do is I put a few pilot holes in. Because of the number of miniatures, the Warlord resin is quite light, but it does have the metal components to it. So what I'm going to do is add a few pilot holes. I think I'm going to go for 6, and then I'll get the larger bit. And what I use is some 3 mil by 1 mil magnets, which I picked up from Amazon, and they do the job just great. So just put in a few pilot holes just around the base. And then I'll get the 3 mil bit to drill those holes out. Yes, it's a bit of a faff, but yeah, it's just the way I prefer to store my miniatures. So I'll drill these through, and then I'll show you putting the magnets in, what it looks like afterwards. Okay, so once the holes are drilled out, I like to start just popping the magnets in through the top, just so that I can squeeze them in and get them nice and flush at the bottom there. You can see I put in a couple already, just need to be pushed in a little bit more. Sometimes they're a bit tricky to fit in, so just give them a little tap, and they tend to fit in really flush. There you go. And then just give it a good squeeze in. There we go, just so it's nice and flat there. And then just go around and do those. And then what happens when you start sticking the models down, you can then, and basing, you can, you know, super glue these in place from the top. It just means they're not going anywhere then. So 2 more to go. And these magnets you can pick up dirt cheap on Amazon. Yeah, I tend to bulk buy them because I get through so many. Some of the larger metal miniatures have got quite a lot of magnets in them. But once it's done, really easy storage. Okay, so after magnetising the base, I then added some scatter terrain onto it and some gravel to make it a bit more thematic. Before I glued these in, I did a bit of a dry fit with the machine gun, which I blue tacked. You can see the bit of blue tack there, and placed the crew in, so I just knew everything was going to go where I wanted it to go and it would fit. Then, yeah, glued everything in place on the base, and then glued the machine gun together as well, so that's all ready to go. It will fit nicely on here, just there, look. And then the crew will kind of sit around that quite nicely as well. So once I've glued the gun down, that will get a prime of black, and then the crew, which I put on lollipop sticks just so it's easier to paint multiple models at once, they'll get a prime of grey before I start painting them. So that's it, that's how I prepare my models for painting. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I hope you found it useful. You know, it can be tricky to put together the metal and resin kits, but once you kind of factor in the possible challenges that you might come across, you know, and dry fit things, and just make sure your cleanups is all done properly, and you clean the models and make sure you get the release material off. It's a breeze really. You know, they do look great, so it's worth the hassle. So yeah, I hope you've liked this video and I hope you found it useful. Do like and subscribe to the channels so that you'll get the next video in this series where I'll be painting these guys up. And yeah, thank you to Fog of War Games for sending out this kit and, you know, sponsoring the channel. And if you do want to support the channel and you're looking for new miniatures, and do go to Fog of War Games, remember to use the code recruit10 to get that 10% discount, and know that you know, you've been sent there from this video. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.